Hello everyone. Today we'll be using departmental overhead rates to allocate indirect costs. We start off by asking, when does a company know if they should refine its allocation system? A company should decide to refine when they have one of the following conditions. Number one, different departments have different amounts of manufacturing overhead. Number two, different jobs or products use the department to different extents. Refining can be good or bad for certain companies. That is why these two conditions exist, so that the company can produce and use their money in the most effective way. Now we look at departmental rate overhead. In the book, it simply is defined as separate manufacturing overhead rates established for each department. With that, we can use our 4 basic steps used to allocate manufacturing overhead using departmental overhead rates. The first one is the company estimates that the total manufacturing overhead costs that will be incurred in each department in the coming year. These estimates are known as the departmental overhead cost pools. With our kayak example, we will see how much MOH is put into each department and then add them up together. $220,000 goes to the manufacturing department, $180,000 goes to the distribution department. That equals a total cost pool of $400,000. After finding the departmental overhead cost pool, then we go on to our second step, which is the company selects an allocation base for each department and estimates the total amount that will be used during the year. The allocation base is how many direct labor hours each department is putting into the product. In this case, 10,000 direct labor hours for the manufacturing department, 15,000 direct labor hours for the distribution department. We use these numbers as the total amount of department allocation base, which will help us then find the departmental overhead rate. Which leads us into our third important step, which is the company calculates departmental overhead rates using the information estimated in steps 1 and 2. The equation for departmental overhead rate is our total estimated department overhead cost pool divided by our total estimated amount of departmental allocated base. With our kayak example, we would then find the manufacturing department overhead rate by taking our $220,000 divided by the $10,000, which equals 22 per direct labor hours. Then we would have our distribution department overhead rate by taking our $180,000 divided by $15,000, which equals $12 per direct labor hour. Now that we have the 2 departmental overhead rates established, we can move on to our fourth step, which is the company allocates some manufacturing overhead from each department to the individual jobs that use those departments. Our equation needed for this is going to be our MOH allocated to the job, which is departmental overhead rate multiplied by actual amount of departmental allocation base used by job. Now we will be looking at the kayak example from before. We have our manufacturing and our distribution department, but we also have jobs for a standard kayak and a deluxe kayak. As we look at the top, we see that the manufacturing has 22 times 1 direct labor hour, which is given, and then distribution, which is 12 times 9 direct labor hours given. Add those together, and it's $130 for the standard kayak to be made. Then we have our manufacturing at $22 times 4 direct labor hours given, and distribution, which is $12 times the 6 direct labor hours given. When you add those together, you get $160 for the deluxe kayak. Those are the 2 individual jobs that we have for the departments that are given. And now for the wrap-up. We found out that our indirect costs was $400,000. Our departmental cost pool was $220,000, $180,000, while our departmental overhead rates were 22 and 12 direct labor hours. Our indirect costs allocated to cost objects were $130 for the standard kayak and $160 for our deluxe kayak. Thank you everyone for watching, and I hope that this helped you using departmental overhead rates to allocate indirect costs.